Hello, my name is Elisa, and I am the graduate clinician that will be working with Michelle today. She will be the client, and I am the clinician. Hi, Michelle. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to be with you here today to explain swallowing.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So we're gonna get into it. So first, we're just gonna go over some basic structures involved in swallowing.
Mhm.
So first we have our nasal cavity right here. This big orange structure is our tongue. Right above our tongue here is our hard palate, and then behind it is our soft palate. And right behind our tongue here is our pharynx, which lower down leads into our esophagus. And then here we have our epiglottis, our vocal folds, also known as our larynx, and then our trachea. So all of these structures are involved in swallowing. Okay. Do you have any questions so far?
Nope, not yet.
Okay, perfect. So there's four stages involved in swallowing. So our first phase is our oral preparatory phase, and this is essentially when food first enters the mouth. And here, our lips, our tongue, our jaw, and our teeth are, and our salivary glands, they're all involved in chewing the food. So right here is what's called a bolus, and the bolus is essentially food and saliva that has mixed together to create like a puree consistency to make it easier to swallow.
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is swallowing liquid the same process as swallowing food?
Yeah, so essentially it is. You're gonna use the same structures and it's gonna be all the same mechanics when swallowing food and liquid. The only difference is you don't have to chew your liquid, so it's gonna go down a lot quicker than food would. Um, and then also when you're swallowing a liquid, it might be to, it's easier for you to aspirate because it's moving quickly and the mechanisms might not have time to get in the right place. But yeah, essentially it's the same thing. The structures are all the same.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, so the second stage in a swallow is going to be the oral stage. And at this point, the mastication has stopped and the bolus has formed. So here we still have the bolus right here, the green object. So what happens now is your tongue tip is going to raise. The middle of your tongue is going to push up the bolus against your hard palate and the back of your tongue is going to drop. And essentially, what this does is it creates a ramp for the bolus to go down and enter the pharynx. All right. So the next phase is the pharyngeal. This is one of the complex stages of the swallow because there's a lot that goes on with it. So at this point, the food, the bolus has exited the oral cavity and is now in the pharynx. So you can see right here, it's in the pharynx. And what happens is right here, that soft palate we talked about earlier, it elevates to close off the nasal cavity, so that food doesn't go through your nose when you're chewing or swallowing. And simultaneously, the epiglottis here, it's covering the vocal folds, and the larynx moves forward so that the esophagus it kind of expands, which will later allow the bolus to slide down. So the reason why this epiglottis here covers the vocal folds and the trachea is so food doesn't go down that way because it would enter our lungs instead of our esophagus. So there's a lot going on in this part. Do you have any questions? I know that was a lot.
Yeah, so what do people mean when they say my food went down the wrong pipe?
So that's a good question. So what happens is the bolus is right here in the pharynx, and then it separates off. So this right here is the trachea, and this behind it is the esophagus. So when people say it went down the wrong pipe, it's meaning that the bolus went down the trachea, which is your airway, instead of the esophagus. So when this happens, that the natural reflex is for you to cough, um, because it went down the wrong way. It's going toward your lungs instead of your stomach.
Okay, I understand now.
Yeah. All right. And then the last stage is the esophageal phase. And this is essentially when the bolus has now entered the esophagus right here. And then the sphincters have tightened so that the bolus or the food cannot be entered back into the pharynx. And once it enters the esophagus right here, peristalsis, which is just like your muscles contracting, it moves the food down the esophagus so it can enter the stomach for digestion. All right, and that's pretty much it. I know that was a lot. Do you have any more questions?
So when you said the food goes down, is it that process that you mentioned that actually leads the food down?
Yeah. Uh-huh. So when we swallow, the food doesn't just stay right here in our esophagus. Muscles contract to move the food down our esophagus into our stomach.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else you have questions about?
I think you answered everything. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Let me know if you have any more questions or want to follow up about anything.
Of course, thank you. I feel like I have a much better understanding of the swallow now.
Good.